So this is what our end product looks like. When we're done packaging, this is what it looks like. So it's on a foam meat tray, labeled and everything. But the important part for y'all is how the rodents look. So if we notice, they're all laying on their side, that same side. They're nut to butt here, whatever, snuggling. And they're all laying on there nice and flat. So when you give them to us, something like this is totally acceptable, but not 100% preferred. This works. So they're all laying down, snuggling nut to butt. So then we can take them out of this bag. It's a lot easier for us to put them on the tray, just like that. So there's nothing wrong with this. This works perfectly fine, but it's not the best we've ever got. Let me show you a couple others. So here is another different supplier. Again, these are all Afros offers. I'm literally completely out of rats at the moment, so I don't even have any rats to show you. But principle's all the same. So here's another supplier and how he brings them to us. And again, these are totally acceptable. We're not going to reject them or anything, but these are still not perfect. The other bag was actually better, and here's why. So the tails all coming down, if you saw our meat tray, which is this right here, if you can see, their tails are now longer than that meat tray. So for us to use these ones, we actually have to defrost their tails a little bit and try to bend their tail around to fit on this tray. So you can totally just throw them in these bags, and then what you can do, you can totally just use freezer bags and throw them in a bag like this. We would just ask to make it a little bit better is if you kind of curl these tails around, but that gets hard when they're in the bag. But anyway, we'll talk about that in a minute. So we also call it flat packing. So you're putting them all in there like this, but if you notice, their bodies are actually a little bit flat. Well, that's because what they do is then you go and stack multiple bags on top of each other in your freezer, and then the weight from the other ones are pushing down to keep them nice and flat. That's actually how we want it. So again, all these are acceptable. We never reject these, but that's not necessarily how we want to teach you to do it. And because we don't do it this way, how we do it is we just use our tray. So I don't even have the ability to necessarily show you how we want you to do it. I have one of my suppliers that does it absolutely perfect. And the next time he drops off, I will take some of his product and kind of show you how his look, and then but I'm going to explain how he does it. What he does is he gets a cookie sheet. So imagine you have a cookie sheet that you bake cookies in your oven on. So, a flat thing, but obviously it's much larger. Then what he does is he lays all the rats out on that cookie sheet going the same way. Then this is kind of how we do it too, but again, without the cookie sheet, we're using these little foam trays. So you lay the rats out all lined up, all nut to butt. Then you come and you take your finger behind their tails, you just swipe all the way around their butts and then kind of come up and around that last rat. So that makes all their tails nice and kind of uniform. And then for us, when we put it in this tray, all we have to do is flip that one rat around and his tail is sticking that way, and it will never be sticking off the tray. So again, if you get a cookie sheet, big metal cookie sheet, and you lay them all out on the cookie sheet, multiple levels, so you do one level, then you take your finger behind all their tails. So imagine their heads are facing, this way. So their back's here, heads facing that way. You line them all up, boom, 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 boom. And you come back behind them, grab their tail, and just kind of loop it around, come up and tuck it under this last rat. Then you can do your next row, boom, 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 tuck all the tails, bang, do your next row, tuck all the tails. And then you can do multiple cookie sheets. So then, you grab another cookie sheet, set it on top of these already done rats, and, stack them up. Then go set it in your freezer overnight or until they freeze solid. Then you can transfer them into a bag like this to free up your cookie sheets to do more rats. That is the absolute perfect way to do that. Literally, makes them look so beautiful. I wish I had some of the bags of rats that guy does. They look absolutely amazing. That's the way to do it. That's what will make us the absolute happiest. Now, again, we would never reject this one, but this one, out of all the ones I have to show you today, is probably the worst that we're okay with. The other one was slightly better. I like the way that he had his tails tucked better, but I kind of like them being in a bigger bag with more of them on there than being in that smaller bag, because then you start getting that one that's turned sideways and stuff. But anyway, this is totally unacceptable. So this was actually that same guy that I showed you the little bag before, and we told him if he brings us stuff like this again, we're not gonna buy it, and we'll never buy from him ever again. We did buy these, but we did not pay the rate on the Excel sheet. We paid 1/3 the actual rate. So I told him, I said, I don't want these. I can't use these. And he was kind of like, well, I don't know what to do with them. And I said, well, I'll pay you a third rate for them, but next time I won't. Next time you try to give me something like this, I will not take it. So what we've done with these is we've already packaged a few of them off, is we defrost them, and they're bad for several reasons. Obviously, one, you can tell that this is like a block. This is, you know, we have to literally defrost these rats almost completely to break them apart. Secondly, if we look at them, they're like wet, their fur's wet. He was euthanizing with CO2, and that's one of the reasons why they're stuck together, because the CO2 creates moisture, and then when they freeze together. So that's why we cannot use CO2. Even if you package them perfectly, we cannot euthanize with CO2, because then the rats will stick together and they'll have that wet, nasty look to them. So this, we told him, you know, we'll buy these at a third rate. We're repackaging them and we're selling them at a 50% discount to our customers. Just because we're getting, you know, we're using the product. We're not letting these African stoppers, we're not letting this rodent's life go to waste. We're still letting it feed some animals. But if you bring me something like this, especially after seeing this video, we will not buy it. You know, you can feed it to your own snake, sell it to somebody else, but you know, we just did it that one time, and we don't ever want to do that again, and we paid significantly less for them. So again, this is completely unacceptable. Euthanized with CO2. If we notice the rats are super wet, a little bit of moisture is okay. You know, like these ones don't at all. We don't really want them to have any moisture, but a little moisture is okay. But when they look like, you know, they were soaking wet before getting frozen, we're going to reject them no matter what. And if they're clumped together in a ball, we're going to reject them no matter what. So again, this one's not perfect, but it's acceptable. That other green bag, this bag. So that other bag was acceptable, but not perfect. This bag is slightly better. And the best would be to lay them out on a cookie sheet, freeze them all, and then throw them in a bag.